Hello, everyone, and welcome to Away Games, a Chicago Cubs and baseball podcast hosted by two comedians who love the Cubs but live in New York. I am one of them. My name is Adam Amawala. I'm here with Kevin McCaffrey. Off the top, before we get into funny and fun baseball stuff, for anyone who has inquired, we are recording this on Tuesday, whatever day today is. But Kevin and I are both fine. Kevin is in the Midwest. I'm in New York, but all is well. This is, of course, in relation to a mass shooting in New York. So great. Good. We're off to a good start.
Yeah, and I know you guys, wherever you're listening to this from, you have your own mass shootings to worry about. So I get that. We hope you're also not on those trains or whatever. But yeah, thank you for the text and the tweets to @AwayGamesPod. If you want to follow us and ask about whether we're alive or not, or to share any Cubs related or baseball related stuff, that's where you can holler at us.
Yes, but that having been covered, we are recording this after opening weekend, before the Cubs-Pirates game at a very bizarre time of 4:12 Eastern today. I assume it's the Pirates home opener. I don't know why else they would schedule a game at that time. I don't understand.
So they scheduled it for 4:12 because it's 4:12, I think.
But is there any significance to the date 4:12?
I mean, for me, it's David Letterman's birthday,
Nice.
but that is no. I think literally the Pirates are straight up out of ideas, and so since there's nothing.
Oh yeah, that's gonna get a draw. Yeah, all of July it's gonna be 7:01, then 7:02, then 7:03. But wait, you'll never guess. 7:04 is gonna be the next one.
Come celebrate the never-ending march of time with the Pittsburgh Pirates, where it's just the same shit every day till you're dead slightly later.
That's kind of a perfect promotion for a team like the Pirates. Just like their like team hashtag is hashtag time is inevitable.
That is that is a pretty good one for them. Remember when the Pirates were good? They were good pretty recently.
Yeah, and I actually, despite the, I guess the Cubs kind of, I don't even know if I would say they had a rivalry. The wild card game got kind of spicy in 2015, but
For sure.
I liked that Pirates team. I've always been a big McCutchen guy, and we'll talk about his comments the past weekend at some point. But I mean, I like that team. I was sure as hell rooting for them against the Cardinals. I guess, was it that previous year? I'm losing track of time, but or when they beat the Reds, I don't remember. When they were chanting Cueto, that was a good time.
Yeah, that was fun, and they had and I feel like those Pirates teams, even beyond McCutchen, it's like if you look at the players they had involved, like a lot of them are still good, even though that was like 6-7 years ago. Like Garrett Cole was on that team.
Yep, Garrett Cole, Starling Marte.
Austin Meadows, who was good with the Rays and then was just traded to the Tigers as well. But yeah.
So, because, and I don't want to be too doom and gloom, but because this is possibly the only podcast we get to record during this Cubs season in which they are above 500, let's have some fun. I mean, 2-1 start. You got to feel pretty good about that. A sweep would have been great. They could have swept, but 2-1 start against the Brewers.
2-1 start against the Brewers. And I mean, I don't expect the Cubs to play at that clip for the rest of the year necessarily. Who knows? But it's just fun to watch the Brewers lose. Like on top of watching the Cubs win, it's nice to have the Brewers lose. And the Cubs really did outplay them throughout the course of that series. It wasn't a fluke 2-1 series victory. It didn't feel like the Cubs were better.
Right. Yeah. I completely agree. There's been a lot of Milwaukee-Chicago tension of late. Now the Bucks are playing the Bulls in the first round. I do not have high hopes for that, but
I feel like that could go the other way. Yeah, yes, it feels unless Patrick Williams is now just drops 35 points a game from here on out, then okay, sure.
Honestly, two very compelling Patrick W's on both the Cubs and the Bulls.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true. Patrick Wisdom didn't have as sexy a series as I guess as some of the other Cubs, but yeah, watching. I mean, if you told us coming into this that one of the games would get bumped, so got bumped to now it's a doubleheader on May 30th, one of the 3 Brewers Cubs games, or one of the 4 that was scheduled for this weekend. But that means that the Cubs got to only face the Brewers like heavy top 3 in their rotation between last year's Cy Young Corbin Burns and then Brandon Woodruff and Peralta as well. And to take 2 or 3 against those guys is is great any year, anytime, but especially in this year when we're at least coming in a week ago with tempered expectations. So it was fun to watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fun to watch
Yeah.
those guys not swing at stuff.
It was very fun. It was also a very encouraging sign to see the starting pitching that we did, albeit in shorter outings because it's the
Hmm.
shortened spring training and first
Right.
weekend of the season. But Hendricks looked great, and he did not last year on opening day. So
Hmm.
great start from Hendricks. Steele looked really good. It was particularly cool as people who have interviewed these guys to see Steele start a game and Ethan Roberts make his major league debut and finish it.
Hmm.
A very cool moment. And then Stroman just being Stroman, just ton of energy, really jazzed and jacked up, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, I think, and we can go. Let's go pitcher by pitcher by who you just mentioned there. I think like Hendricks starting on opening day. That's his third consecutive opening day start for the Cubs, which is fun, and that's a thing he really deserves. I think for everything he's done for this team, and for a guy who I still think is probably the best pitcher in baseball career-wise, who out of currently active players who has not made an all-star team, like
Yeah,
I do enjoy when he gets some of this, like even if it's kind of an arbitrary honor, the honor of like a three-time opening day starter for the Cubs that's a difficult thing to do. There's a lot of great pitchers who haven't done that.
yeah,
And then the way he came out and it seemed like even the couple of walks he had were semi-intentional, and otherwise the command was on, and he just got a ton of swings and misses on the changeup, and his changeup got absolutely destroyed last year after being a plus pitch for a lot of years. So it's like that was a better game, I think, than he pitched in terms of just like stuff, I think, than he had all of last year. So that was awesome to see.
right. And one of your kind of predictions for the season was just even for your own sanity, like I have to believe that Hendricks is better than he showed us a lot of last year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's a very encouraging start, because it's like for her own sanity, and just for, even if whatever happens with the Cubs, I feel better if Kyle Hendricks continues to be good, because
Right.
he's been underrated and overlooked for so long that I don't want dummies to be able to look at him now if he is in any sort of a decline and go, see, he's not good. Like I just emotionally want him to individually be good. And I was bummed that the bullpen kind of lost that lead for him, so he didn't end
Right.
up getting that win. But Hendricks versus Burns, and the Cubs got the win. So that's amazing.
Right. Yeah, it is upsetting that at this point, as a Cubs fan, emotionally, there is like a small part of my brain that's like, well, I guess maybe if Hendricks and Contreras are just really bad, they won't get traded because there would be no point. But that's a dumb thing to root for. So
Right. And then I think the thing is, if they are very good and push the Cubs to like surprising competitive levels, then I think then the idea of extending them maybe becomes more of a likelihood. As far as, and I mean, I don't have any trust in the Cubs really extending any player who's ever played for them for any amount of time at this point. I
right.
mean, like in this Cubs era, they have extended literally one above average Major League Baseball player that was already on their team that they had under control and exclusive negotiating rights to, and that's Kyle Hendricks. They extended him for a couple years. The other extension was David Bodie. I said above average though, like, I'm saying like out of players who are active starting level contributors to a competitive team, they've only extended one the whole time. But I think Hendricks and Contreras are the two guys you look at on this team where if they play very well, that it's more likely that the Cubs are doing well, and maybe more likely that in Hendricks' case maybe a shorter extension, and in Contreras maybe yeah, I'm sure he's looking for 4 or 5 years. So that's how I'm trying to root for it. But my mindset is doing the exact same shit.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I do, as much as I will not give Hoyer credit for much of anything, I do genuinely believe that if it were not for that brutal 11-game skid leading up to the All-Star break, I do think that if the Cubs had been in first or close to first, they would have just let it ride one
I
last
do too.
time and traded for some players. So I'm not that jaded to think that the Cubs would have sold off from first place last year. And
Yeah.
I am hopeful that if the Cubs somehow get off to a hot start and maintain that for the first few months, that not only will they not sell off the players that we love, but they might think about adding,
Mhm.
which is exciting to dream on a little bit. But
And very
yeah,
funny and very funny, but
right.
this is exactly the way we would think and talk. We're at 3 games in, but
Of
and the
course.
Brewers did And the Brewers did just lose to the Orioles yesterday, which is hilarious. And did I put on DraftKings a bet on the under for Orioles 61.5 wins? I did. So the Brewers sucking here hurts me a little there, but I'll take it. I enjoy
I
it.
thought you were going to say you bet Orioles money line yesterday just to make a little dough.
Maybe I should today. If it's, I don't know, is Burns going or is it are they going 5-man rotation? Actually, the Brewers go 6-man rotation a lot. So that could be, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to make that sort of bet on DraftKings, is there any sort of promo code that you would consider using?
I guess I would consider using promo code away games at DraftKings and signing up in Illinois somewhere.
Absolutely.
Where you do it.
Yeah, it's Casino Queen Sportsbook, which is live in the land of Lincoln. So as Kevin mentioned, you just use promo code away games, and you can bet $5 on any team of your choice. Maybe it's the Orioles, and you'll get $200 in free bets instantly. So we definitely recommend doing that. I don't know that I would recommend betting on the Orioles. I feel like that seems like something that you would do if you're in too deep and you need to call 1-800-GAMBLER, which feel free to do if you do have a gambling problem. I think betting on the Orioles is inherently a gambling problem. I think that's like a safe thing to say.
I think so. It's very, that's a very uncut gems kind of move, which we won't.
Yeah, and it would be a parlay involving something random, like betting. The fact that for anyone who hasn't seen Uncut Gems, the climax of the film involves a three-part parlay in which one of the parts that a ton of money is riding on is just who wins the opening tip in a basketball game, which is insane to me.
It's insane. It's based on no skill whatsoever. Yeah, and you can make these bets at DraftKings. I've also bet on like first basket. I actually did make pretty good money. I bet on first touchdown score in the Chiefs-Bills game, and it was the Bills running back, and it popped a big number for me. So,
nice.
You can get weird and have some fun.
And for those of you in Illinois listening who are rooting for the Bulls, which I assume many of you are, I recommend first basket Javonte Green if he starts, because he does that thing where he'll like sneak along the side and then kind of steal the tip and dunk. So it's a good bet.
Interesting. Back in the day, Bill Cartwright used to get a lot of first baskets, and then not many more after that. But yeah. So yeah, there we go. Go gamble, folks. That's what we're saying. Promo code away games. But so yeah, Hendricks, we got game 1 versus Burns was wonderful. Game 2, watching our friend Justin Steele go up against Brandon Woodruff was a lot of fun. And before we talk about Steele, just watching Woodruff not have any control in that first inning, and the Cubs continue to not bail him out, and to just watch bad pitches go by and not get too antsy about it was very enjoyable. It's one of the most frustrating things as a fan to watch when the other pitcher has jack shit and then your team bails them out. And that happens sometimes, but they were just really disciplined with the strike zone.
It was great to see, and David Ross alluded to it in one of his press conferences where he said, look, we're not going to probably outpower a lot of teams. These are the kind of at-bats that we need to have, and he's completely right. And it's very satisfying because we've seen it over the years, even good Cubs teams, where there'll be that situation where the previous, let's say the bases are now loaded because it's a hit batter and 2 walks, and then on a 2-0 count, someone swings and hits a double play ball that just ends the rally, and you're like, I know you probably thought he was going to groove you a fastball, but still, you got to wait this guy out. So super satisfying to see that and kind of build that lead organically.
Yeah, it was that was a lot of fun, and they did a lot of the same thing again in the next game against Peralta a little bit too, even though that didn't end up as good. But watching Steele, I think was good, because I don't think that wasn't Steele's best stuff. He got away with some. He had a couple strikeouts on 92-mile-an-hour fastballs right down the middle of the plate a couple of times. So the command wasn't super he has games where he has better command than that, but it's encouraging because he did not let any inning get out of hand. Obviously, he sort of battled through. He kept the ball down really well, and he just in this rotation, he just has a livelier arm than most, and I think he's a guy who we're going to see ramp up a little bit in terms of velocity and stuff as the year goes on. And I think another thing just that we know from watching Steele last year and just his track record through the minors too is he is very not afraid of things. He likes a big stage. I think he likes competing. He likes competing as a starter. And going up against Brandon Woodruff, who's an ace level pitcher, and he got the better of him was awesome. And I think there's more there for Steele.
I completely agree, and particularly that situation. I don't know if it's the fourth inning. I think where there were runners on second and third with one out, and he got 2 strikeouts to end the inning.
Yes.
Excuse me. Not quite the Dodgers moment from last year, but he was pretty fired up. I mean, he's like pounding his glove after he got that strikeout to end the inning. So it's great to see. And then that ultimately led up to the major league debut of another friend of the pod, Ethan Roberts. Who looked pretty sharp, and you could tell that he was appreciating the moment. He was present, but he also you could tell what it meant to him. So pretty cool to see.
It was really cool. Ethan is, and beyond our experience with him, just getting to interview him and message with him a little bit online. He seems to be a really nice guy. But he's the guy we've heard stories about him being a good guy from plenty of other people too. Evan Altman had a long story about it too, and he just I think it's rare to see a guy come in his major league debut like that. You could tell how much it meant to him on the way in. He'd been posting about how much it meant to him, and obviously there was the video, the semi-viral within Cubs World video of David Ross shaking his hand and breaking the news to him that he made the team. And then after he closed it out, and I really like that they brought him in basically a mop-up situation, but they had Ethan Roberts pitch the ninth. So he got to have the moment of getting the last out, the hug with Contreras, the walk back, because Ethan Roberts is, I mean, as much as there is such a thing, a closer prospect. This is a guy who closed games in college. He closed games in the minors. This is a ninth inning prospect. And I thought it was really cool that they had him come in a ninth inning like that. It was pretty perfect.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty cushy first gig in the majors is a 9-0 lead in the ninth inning. So very very cool moment for him. I feel like a lot of times you'll see guys make their major league debut on the other end of that, like a team is losing 9-0 and it's like, all right, let's throw this guy out there. So good for him. I'm excited to see what he'll be able to do with this club. But that was certainly a highlight of the weekend. And then. And then on Sunday,
and then there was
go ahead,
and I was just gonna say the couple notable things I thought from the Ethan Roberts appearance. One, you can tell, and his favorite pitcher is Marcus Stroman, which he told us on the podcast before Stroman signed with the Cubs. And one of those reasons is Stroman is also a shorter pitcher. But you can really tell Ethan is not a giant guy out there. No. You can tell he does not look big. And it's fun because I think that leads to the attack angle being sort of unusual, where the ball is being released from. And you can tell it just the batters don't feel comfortable. And I think if Ethan has command, the stuff just really plays. The fastball is sitting, it seemed mostly 94-ish, but he can pop, he pops as high as 97. And then the slider he busted out is disgusting. And our friend at Cub Prospects on Twitter, Brian, posted a sort of leaderboard of pitchers whose sliders had the most horizontal break in the major leagues, and Ethan from that appearance would have ranked number 1 in the major leagues last year. Wow. So the guy has plus slider, and the fastball really plays, and I'm very excited to see.
Well, it seems to me that height doesn't measure heart.
HDMH. Which does sound like a drug you would take, but it is.
It does. That is not a banned substance. We want to be clear that you are allowed to use HDMH.
HDMH, yes, it's a great. It's Marcus Stroman's foundation, and something that you have to. If you take it, you gotta stay hydrated at that EDM concert. Otherwise, you will pass out. So.
Well, perfect segue into Marcus Stroman's first start. He looked good. Again, I think he went either 5 innings or 5 1/3, but he looked good. I mean, he made a mistake and gave up a run, but beyond that, I think it was a pretty encouraging outing. We also got to see the first home run from Seiya Suzuki, which was not a cheapie whatsoever. That one was crushed. I guess the main takeaway from that game was that Jesse Chavez did not look so good.
No, he didn't, and that's people have bad games, you know, and
Yeah.
like Jesse Chavez was effective pitching in the World Series last year. So I don't, he is an older pitcher. So at some point you do lose it, but I'm not freaking out about him losing it. The most annoying thing to me was walking the leadoff hitter up too. Like, gave up a bomb after that on a very hittable pitch. Like, that sucks too. But just really from Jesse Chavez, and what was so fun about him in when he came over mid-season a few years ago in a pennant race and was just one of the most valuable guys out of that pen, was he would just come in and absolutely hammer the strike zone. You know, like he would just come in. You felt like he never gave away an at bat that way, and he gave one away immediately, and then the Cubs really paid for it. So that sucks. But really, that's the main, like, that's really the main problem out of the pitching total this whole week.
Right. Are the Brewers like legally required to have the biggest first baseman in the world? What is happening? Like, who? I'm forgetting this new guy's name, but like
Rowdy Tellez.
Yeah, Rowdy Tellez. Before him, it was you had Vogelbach, and before him, you had Eric Thames, and before him you had Prince Field. Like, just an incredibly long list of gigantic humans.
That's true. Prince Fielder, and even this guy wasn't a first baseman in real in real baseball, but Pete Vukovich, I believe, won the Cy Young as a pitcher for the Brewers, and then played a big ass first baseman in the movie Major League. He plays Clu Haywood, but he was a Cy Young award winning pitcher. So even their pitchers are big old fat first basemen. So it's like
Pete Vukovich, not to be confused with Jeff Vukovich, but if you have any insurance needs, we can't recommend him enough.
Absolutely. When we know his son follows us on Twitter, is that right?
Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll get him on the pod. It'll be a good episode.
Exactly. For our insurance episode, halfway after the Cubs sell off. But yeah, Jesse really was the only guy who had a tough time of it. And also seeing Scott Efros back reminded me of how enjoyable he is to watch, coming from the sidearm angle like that, and popping 91 from there, which isn't easy. That's some good velocity from that angle.
Yeah, 100%. Well, we didn't expect this to be happening, but a Brewers pitcher actually just threw a ball through the window in Kevin's hotel, and it just struck him in the back. So, any comment on that, Kevin?
You know, I know it wasn't on purpose. This is the second time today that's happened, so it seems weird that it keeps happening. But you know, I guess the podcast has a way of policing itself, and I'm sure if we're not here next week, you'll know we've been suspended for 3 games.
Come on.
And it's like, look, Keegan.
It's a reliever. It's one thing if it's a starter for 3 games, like,
right. And at least Keegan is he pitches multiple innings at a time, so having 3 games off in a row is not necessarily. That's going to be a thing that would just naturally happen sometimes too, but I do think it's a bit much. So what we're talking about obviously is the Brewers continued to hit the Cubs. No team, and is it the last? How many years is it? Like 3 years, I think, 3 or 4. Right. No one team has hit the batters of the opposing team more than the Brewers have hit the Cubs, and every time a Cub hits a Brewer or even comes close, like Tepera, when Tepera almost hit Woodruff last year, Woodruff could not have been a bigger baby about it. Saying that's fucked up, man, after he beamed, I think it was Contreras, because Contreras always gets hit by this fucking team. Basically, Ian Happ, who was off to a super hot start, got hit in the knee with a 91 mile an hour cutter. And I don't think that was intentional. Wilson Contreras was hit twice this week, and once was dead center in the middle of the back. I don't think the second one was intentional, but I'm not giving him credit.
The second one was closer to the middle of the plate. That was kind of Wilson, like, leaning over a little bit.
It hit, get on that elbow. Yeah.
I feel like this might be some sort of bias, but I do feel like Wilson not only gets hit a lot by the Brewers, but gets hit in a dangerous way. Like, he'll get hit up high. Yeah, he's not getting hit in the ass every time. Like, that hit him square in the center of the back. So you could understand why he's pissed. And of course, we had that moment last year where he got drilled and then hit that gigantic home run in Miller Park.
It was
maybe one of the best moments of last year, which is probably lost to history now, but
it might be my favorite moment of last year. It like him hitting that bomb and then just absolutely standing there, turning fully to the dugout in Milwaukee, flipping the bat, tossing the bat towards the dugout, and then just repeatedly touching his finger to his lips to shush the crowd as he ran around the bases. It was just the absolute, that was the shit, and extend him for life based on that alone. But he got hit again. Ian Happ gets hit. The Brewers just continue hitting Cubs. And then Keegan Thompson went up there and he missed Andrew McCutchen with one pitch and then hit him with the next one. And McCutchen had some points that I think are fair afterwards, where he said, if you're going to hit the guy, hit him right away. Don't make me think you're going to pitch to me, because then it can result in a more dangerous situation when the batter's like leaning into it more. And the first was a strike on the outside corner, and then he decided to hit him. So I don't really know. And Keegan threw at him on purpose. He did. Okay. Like, I know you, no one says you do. He did. And it's understandable why he did. I don't think either one of us is a big fan of like the throwing at guys aspect of this game, but someone has to do something. The umpires have to do something. Brewers management has to. Someone has to do something. Otherwise, this just fucking happens. Baseball's been around a long time. This is going to happen, and you know it at this point.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of the beanball wars, but because of the fact that it seems like the Brewers are always the ones initiating things, then the Cubs are the ones who end up getting penalized because they retaliate, and then they're the ones who have a player suspended, which is inherently very frustrating, because it's like, well, we didn't start it. It's the equivalent of like someone shoves you and then you shove them back, but the ref only sees that second part and then you get a technical. It's like, well, I wouldn't have done it if not for being instigated by someone else.
Yeah, and as Contreras said, he doesn't think they're usually doing it on purpose. But if you can't go inside with command, then you have to stop doing it, like at some point. And the Brewers acting surprised by any of this or having a problem with any of it, like, get fucking real. Like, you know what's happening, you know what you've done, and you can say it's unintentional, but it keeps happening. So blame yourself. Get one of your pitchers to be able to control a pitch. Try that. I hear you have a very nice rotation. I hear you have a very nice bullpen. Someone should learn how to throw the ball over the plate, or at least not into the person. Otherwise, this kind of shit's going to happen. And I would have rather the Cubs beaned anyone except Andrew McCutchen, who's a good dude and just got there. So he hasn't been a part of this. But he's also the only guy who's been hitting the ball for them, really. So that's what happened. David Ross is suspended for a game. Keegan Thompson is suspended for 3, but Keegan looked really good. And I should say Keegan's command, when it was time to bean McCutchen, beaned him right in a safe place, fastball direct to the thigh. So Keegan looked on. And I'll tell you another, Keegan looked completely unbothered by the whole bench clearing scenario. Couldn't have been calmer about it.
I mean, Hayward was coming in hot. He came jetting in there.
Hayward got rid of the glove and was ready to go, and that was good to see. Coming in from center field too, he was very much, it was a little shades of Anthony Rizzo versus Aroldis Chapman in 2014. Of the guy sort of being like, I'm the guy here, I'm the team leader here. If you have a problem, talk to me.
Right. And there has been talk of like, is this a new ball and it's harder to get a grip on it? I mean, we saw an incredibly scary play from former Cub Steve Cishek when he beamed Francisco Lindor, who was squared around to bunt, and drilled him in the head, which also caused a benches clearing incident, rightfully so. I mean, that's really, really scary, and it's good that Lindor is okay. Also, quite a head of hair on that guy right now.
Yeah, he's that hair's going. Lindor's a very stylish guy. His current hair looks like he closed his eyes and pointed at several things and said, "Go for it." Like it just seems like unintentional, whatever's happening up there.
But glad that he's okay. And I guess to kind of like bounce around the league a little bit, now that we've talked about the Cubs, it is, I feel like you and I have perhaps been guilty of a little too much reminiscing about the good old days with our beloved Cubs. But like, opening day was just a classic example of it being rubbed in our faces. Like, Rizzo hits a home run in his first at bat. Schwarber hits a home run in his first at bat with the Phillies. Baez has an incredible play at shortstop and then hits a game-winning, very bizarre ball to the outfield. And then even last night, I went to my first baseball game of the year just for the hell of it. I got tickets for like $13 to go to a Blue Jays Yankees game.
Nice.
And just like, I'm simultaneously watching Rizzo on the field, Then I glance up at the scoreboard. Javier Baez hits a game-winning two-run homer in the 8th inning. It's like it's still hard for my brain to adjust to the fact that these guys are scattered all across the league, and it still
Yeah,
makes me sad.
yeah. As our friend Ken Schultz put it very simply, it's possible the problem with the team wasn't the good players. Like there obviously there were problems with the team in the last couple years, but the guys are still good. They're playing well for good teams. Rizzo homered twice, and I think I'm sort of, and I think both of us are sort of vibe the way our friend fellow comedian Joe Kilgallen does online, where he unabashedly roots for these guys when they're not playing the Cubs, and I think I will always do that too.
Absolutely.
As far as position players go, though, we talked about all the pitching, but yeah, you were talking about Seiya Suzuki earlier, and what did you take away from his opening series?
I thought he looked pretty good. I mean, he got a little lucky with a couple hits. There was the one on Sunday, I believe, that was kind of, or maybe it was Saturday, where he kind of got jammed and still popped it into center field. But I mean, he looks as advertised to me. He looks like a professional hitter. I don't really have a sense of how his fielding is because I don't know that we've really had an opportunity to see what he can do yet. But I mean, early results seem good all across the board.
I've seen, yeah, what we saw. There was a couple of plays that were trickier than they looked that he made pretty simply. And as we know, Wrigley during day games is a very difficult right field with the sun, and he seemed to manage the sun really well on a couple of fly balls at a weird time of day. And then there was I think it was on opening day, a deep shot into right, like a line shot basically to the warning track that he got back on easily and made the catch on. So that looks really smooth and encouraging to me. And then the bomb he hit for the homer was just, I mean, watching it, I am very excited by how smooth and easy and under control that swing looks and how much power is generated from it. That seems...
It's not like a Javi, like swinging out of your cleats sort of swing. It's very, very controlled.
The balance in that swing is amazing. It is really, and the exit velocity numbers are really good too. He seems to be a guy who gets good carry on the ball in terms of the spin he's hitting it with. But I mean, just like really easy power and really under control swing, and the guy is known for walking as much or more than he strikes out in Japan, and he showed that sort of plate discipline this week too. And it's hard, you don't want to go nuts after one series, and the league doesn't know him yet, so I'm sure the league will adjust to him somewhat too. But this guy looks like he has basically all the talents you want in a baseball player, and he's 27 and he's going to be here for a while, so that's very fun.
Other offensive takeaways, I would say super encouraging to see Nico hit the ball out of the ballpark, which I believe he didn't do all of last year. Am I right that he didn't hit a home run last year?
Nico's last home run, I believe,
like 2019.
I think so. Yeah, I think it was 2019. And I mean, obviously, shortened 2020 season. He was injured a bunch, whatever. But Nico's looked perfectly fine at shortstop. The arm looks a little stronger. It looks like, I mean, the throwing arm is a difficult thing to improve, but it looks like enough from shortstop, I would say.
He always looks like he's lifting. Nico's like, he's ripped.
Yeah, he's ripped, and like he ripped the ball a couple of times into bad luck the next day too. So I think Nico looked really, really encouraging all over the place. Nick Madrigal, he's going to make a lot of contact. He did strike out twice, which we're told he never does. But Nick Madrigal, I don't want to see him in the 2-hole. He's
an 8 hitter. He's like an 8 or 9.
It's an 8 or 9, and that's fine. Yeah. And like, a guy who makes a ton of contact that's a great skill. He very well could be. He should be a 300 hitter. If he's not a 300 hitter, he's not bringing you much value, honestly. So let's hope he's a 300 hitter. But I don't want to see him up at the 2-hole. Like it's such a like pre Y2K version of a
1000%. Like what is he, Jeff Blauser? Like we
it's a guy. It's back when they used to think the 2-hitter should be bunting the leadoff guy over all the time, like, and that's not it.
Mickey Morandini ass hitter.
Mickey Morandini ass. Boy, did we enjoy our Mickey Morandini ass. But there is like something to the top of the lineup here, and I think lineup construction can be overrated, I guess. But like a mild annoyance from this week is like, let's not do the Madrigal at 2 thing. We have some other hitters we can put up there.
Right, and I'm not going to shit on Madrigal, but I mean, I would say early on, to me, it was like, oh, so we also get to see a weak 4-3 ground out, not only from Jason Hayward, but from a new righty.
Right. Yes. A righty can do it too. Yeah, it's a little bit of what if Albert Almora played the infield? Is 3 games in. I think
Right.
it's from all reports, it seems like Madrigal is a decent base runner, decent defensively at second, and extremely good with contact, albeit no power. But yeah, let's shift that further down in the lineup a little bit.
Right.
Um,
And now we're going into a game in several hours against our old pal Jose Quintana.
Oh man, yeah. Hey Quintana. So we're gonna hopefully we'll see Clint Frazier today. I assume we must
Yeah.
against a left-hander because that's something I want to
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
more. If he
Yeah.
had a pinch hit double in the first in an opening day, that was important, and I would like to see Clint Frazier get a lot of at bats. And Hermosillo is likely to start, I would think, against a lefty today too, and I want to see him in there too.
Right. But yeah, but I mean, by the next time you'll be hearing from us, the Cubs will have played 2 at the Pirates. Then they go face their old buddy Chris Bryant, 4-game set at the Rockies.
Mm-hmm.
And then they play the Rays at the beginning of next week. But theoretically, I mean, 6 games against the Pirates and Rockies, those are not teams that you expect to be particularly good. I'm not even going to play the game of how many of those games should the Cubs win. But
Mm-hmm.
if the Cubs are actually going to compete, those are the kinds of games that you got to win like 4 out of 6 of.
I mean, literally everyone should beat the Pirates all the time. So
Yes.
it's like you got to win. You really should win that series. And the Rockies just took the opening series from the Dodgers, who people are talking
Right.
about as a 117 win team.
And the Cubs are
So
never good in Denver, so I just expect
true.
that. Like I would 1,000% take a split in a 4-game series at Colorado.
Yeah. With this weird contact heavy Cubs lineup, I wish I could take the over on number of triples the Cubs will hit in Colorado
Yeah,
this
it's true.
weekend, though.
It's true.
Not going to hit a lot of homers. God, if Nicky Madrigal's going to hit a homer this year, now's the
Yeah.
time. Let's see if Madrigal can put one in the seats in Colorado this week. But
It's either going to be that or Madrigal's going to hit a pop up in August at Wrigley, and it's just going to carry onto Waveland.
yeah, whatever it takes. I would be happy to see. So yeah, that's a look ahead. And I mean, like overall, first series, I'm I guess we obviously have, as Adam said before, we can fall on a touch on the nostalgic side and a touch on the regretful about how things have been carried outside, and I'm still angry about it. But it's fun to have games on again. I do like it. I always like it.
It's great. Yeah, and truly, if you are listening and you are a comedian and you're looking for a team to root for, you got to root for the Cubs. I mean, what's better for people who work at night than a bunch of games at 2 o'clock? Isn't it fantastic?
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is nice to have something going on during the day to be genuinely interested in. That's sort of how I got into soccer in the first place, was sort of as my full-time comedy career was starting up. And it's like, well, I guess I'll watch this bizarre European game that's on at 1 p.m. on a Tuesday, and get into it. And I did. And the Cubs are that bizarre European team of baseball, basically. So you can have a lot of day games to watch, so get into it.
Well, I hope that this is not the only away games episode you listen to this year in which the Cubs are above 500. They frankly very much should be above 500 when we next record a week from now, but who the hell knows? But yeah, it was an encouraging opening weekend. I feel again. At this point, I think I dislike the Brewers as much as I dislike the Cardinals. I never thought I would get to this point, but
yeah. I would say the same thing. I would say the same thing. Their fans are a different breed of annoying. I feel like there's less overt racism I see online from Milwaukee fans, but as much, if not more, just whiny baby bullshit. I would say it's like them and the Astros fan base are the whiniest, most humorless baby fan bases that I've experienced online.
I will tell you this though. Speaking of the Astros, as you can imagine, anyone from that Astros team, especially more prominent players, are booed forever, and very much so at Yankees games. So last night, every time George Springer came up at the Yankees Blue Jays game, people were really giving it to him, and he hit a 2-run home run, and then was really hamming it up around the bases, which was kind of funny.
Yeah,
and then he accounted for all 3 runs. He hit a gapper later, and you could tell he was like doing that thing where he's trying to get the fans to boo for him more. It was
he's playing the heel. I love it. I love him. Yeah, I'm cool with that. That is just fine. I will give Yankees credit for like the Yankees fans credit for like knowing who to boo when they're on other teams and stuff too. It's
Yeah,
like you
but
got to
they have
follow the game.
Marwin Gonzalez on their team, and they don't seem to have a
Ah,
problem with it.
there we go. Good call. Yeah. No, they're full of shit too. And
Of
obviously the
course.
Yankees, there's like the sealed investigation right now about Yankees possible sign stealing shit that has not been released yet. So it would be pretty perfect if it came out that they were doing something like almost the same level.
Yeah.
Fuck them Yankees too. So, besides Rizzo. But yeah.
Well, look, it's always the people who are most buttoned up who do the shadiest shit. Like, it would be a team who makes everyone shave that's doing some really, like, inappropriate behavior.
Oh, absolutely. And this is from the comedy world. It's like the cleanest comics are always the biggest fucking
Yeah.
perverts. Like
Pull your
this.
pants up, right, Bill Cosby?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Pull them up. Pull them up. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think that's it, right? Is that it for
That'll
for
do
what we
it
got this week?
for us. Make sure to use promo code Away Games at DraftKings at Casino Queen Sportsbook. And hey, if you're gonna shave your nuts, make sure to use promo code Away Games at Manscaped as well.
Yes.
That is it for us this week. Enjoy these strange start times over the next couple days. I think the Cubs play at like 11:30 Central Time tomorrow. That's always a good time.
Great. Love it.
But we will talk to you next week, and go Cubbies.